So hi guys, my name is Robley, I'm from Mandela, and I'm a software developer at Mandela, and I'm going to take you through this session in web scraping. So went to the About Me part, so I'm an artist. I used to draw at least before I discovered a computer and code. Then I game a lot. I play FIFA, COD, first class on games. Then I'm a binge watcher. So I'm waiting to get the best series of startup so that I can binge it all over again. I'm a tech enthusiast, developer at Andela. I tweet too much, and man's not often because man's not hard. So web scraping is a technique employed to extract large amounts of data from websites and formatted for storage in other applications. It automatically extracts data and presents it in a format that you like. So let's say, when I was lost before I found my direction with Python, I knew the basics, but I did not know what to do with it. So I set out on journey of finding myself, finding what I can do with this new skill that I have. And that's a predicament that most of us are in because Python is not famous for websites. It's not famous for other stuff, but it's coming up in that field. So I ran across web scraping, and the first scrap I built was to scrap the BPL table from the Premier League page. And I felt quite happy after I was done with that because it showed me a whole new world of what I can do with this data. Because the next thing I did after that was I built a Telegram bot and set that data there. So I imagined, what if I can make this scrapper run on automation and I can get the BPL top scorer charts every weekend. So I don't need to go to the website, just fire up my Telegram and get the scores. So the next bit is about why scrapping. So consider yourself an avid investor. You have interest in market prices, or the tenders in Kenya are now posted on websites, on the government websites. Maybe there is no API for the data you want. So most websites these days, they build APIs, but the old school ones don't. So for example, the government doesn't have APIs and they post the tenders online. And since it might be quite tedious going through each and every government websites looking for tenders, you can just build scrappers and they'll be doing them for you. Or using browsers is too mainstream and you're up for a thrill. So real life usages of scrapping. So we have search engines. If anyone knows how Google does it, the SEO optimization. So Google scraps your pages and indexes your data so that it can be available on the search. So real estate, I actually built a scrapper for real estate guys. So they use it to scrap properties and index them to list them for their clients who are looking for properties with certain criteria. So e-commerce, so companies use scrappers to find reviews and their online presence, where they can know how their users are reacting to their products, be it on social networks or on their blogs. So we have data mining, where you go hunting for data on the internet. Then you have weather data monitoring, where you have many different places. There is no API, many different locations, and you want to monitor all that data real time. You can build a scrapper. Also in research, when you're looking for specific keywords, specific articles, specific data, you can use scrapping. So the next bit is, so now that we know what scrapping is, now that we know the real life usage of examples, we need to know what you can use to scrap. So we have several libraries that you can use. We have request. This one comes inbuilt with Python. It's the most basic one. It can get you the HTML fetched. The next one is Beautiful Soup. This is the one you're going to be using. It's beginner friendly. It's easy. It gets you anything you want to get the HTML. And it comes with an inbuilt parser such that you can parse the HTML and fetch the data that you want. We have Scrappy. Now this was the framework built specifically for scrapping. It's robust. It's good for large projects. We have LXML is a simple parser. You give it HTML and you can fetch data from it. Then you have Selenium. So anyone who knows Selenium knows that it's used for front-end testing, where it simulates the clicks by users and other stuff. So it can also be used for scrapping. For example, we're going to look at how simple the request is. If you can see, it gets you raw HTML data, doesn't do much after that. So all you do is you import requests, then you specify the page. I'm a Game of Thrones fan, by the way. Then you get the contents. When you print the contents, all that you get is the HTML bit of the website that you have scrapped. So you can see how easy it is. This is a basic example of scrapping. you have the HTML content and you can send it elsewhere. You can fetch whatever you want from that HTML and you can send it to the other side. So the other bit is about Beautiful Soup. So this is a parsing library. It uses different parsers. One of them is LXML, the one that I mentioned earlier, but it also has its own inbuilt HTML parser. So the beauty about Beautiful Soup is you get the page, you get the content, then you fetch by tags. So if I find all A, I get all the links. If I want a list of items, I find all LI. I find all spans, I find all paragraphs. It's very easy. It brings you back the text. You can format it, you can store it, and you can distribute it very simply. This is the bit we're going to use, but not with this example, the another one. So the next one is Scrappy. So this is a web scraper that was originally designed for web scraping. It's a framework, it's not a library. Used to extract data APIs for general purpose. So which means it can get data from APIs too, not just from the front end of websites. So with Scrappy, you can create a project with multiple scrappers if your scrapping scope is too large. Then, so this is a simple example. The beauty about Scrappy is that it has its own inbuilt shell. So how many of us have used Django? So Django comes with its own Python shell. It has its own Python shell where you can import Django into, so does Scrappy. Comes with its own shell where you can import Scrappy and fetch from Game of Thrones and get your feedback, then you print the response. So the next one is about, so now we're going into the demo bit. I'm going to show you a short demo where we're going to scrap my GitHub, where also the project is at. We're going to scrap it and get the list of my repos from my profile, yeah? That works? Nice. So for this session, you're going to need Python 2.7, going to need Beautiful Soup, coffee. There's no coffee. So we have text editors. So the reason you're using Python 7 is because you're going to use URL lib2, which is used for opening web pages, and it's not present in Python 3 because it has changed. So yeah, so I think I'm going to go direct into the presentation. So I'm going to go into the shell. Can we all see? So the instructions are on my GitHub. There's a repo for the same. So here it is. We have the instructions for getting started. So all the requirements will be in the requirement.txt file. So for now we need Beautiful Soup. We need URL lib. Those are the ones that we need for now. So we check into the environment, we install the requirements, then we run. So let's get to it. So since I'm running from an online shell, I'm going to have everything set up here. So I'm going to start from the bit on, yeah, so on the repo we have a simple scrapper, the scrapper I'm going to build right now. It's there, it's called demo.py. So here are the resources that you need for requests, Beautiful Soup, Scrappy, the links are there. Also there's a link to the slides at the top. Yeah, here's the link. And the repo is PyCon-KE web scrapping. So we are going to import the library to open our websites, which I said you're going to use URL lib2. So you're going to import it. Then, excuse my Kikuyu. So that's the library we're going to use to open our web pages and fetch our content. Then you're going to need to import Beautiful Soup 4. So now we have Beautiful Soup 4 and we have URL lib2. So the next bit we need is our URL to scrap. So we need to scrap a URL, which is going to be my GitHub profiles page on the tabs section. So let's wait as that opens. So this is the point I want. So I want to get a list of all these links. I want to get the repo name, and I want to get the description, and I also want to get the link for the repo from my profile. So I'm going to copy this link. So we're going to define the URL that you're going to scrap here. So this is the URL we're going to scrap. You're going to extract my repos, the names, the descriptions, and the links. So once we do that, we're going to fetch the page using URL lib2 that we specified here at the top. So we're going to put it in a page. Goes to lib2.url open, then we put in our URL to scrap. So basically what we have done is we have imported our library for querying the website, where, so this is a class where we pass our page, the HTML that we want to be passed through. Then we are going to specify the parser that we are going to use to extract the information. So we import the library to query our website, then we import Beautiful Soup, then we specify the URL. So specifically we want my GitHub and my repos. So then we query the website using URL lib, then we get the page. So after we get the page, so we use HTML parser. So as I said earlier, Beautiful Soup is a class, so we pass it the page that we want it to be passed, and then we tell it which parser it's going to use to pass our page. And since our content is HTML, we're going to use the HTML data. So all our HTML page is stored in this soup variable, and it's in this soup variable that we can extract the bits that we want. But before we get to that, what should we have done first? We should have inspected the page that you're going to scrap, because we need to know the location of the bits that you're going to get. So if I open up my repo, it's zoomed in. So I want this bit here, yeah? So we go to the inspect element. So it is at this point I want us to find the exact location of the name of the repo, the link of the repo, and the description of the repos. So if we hover, so we can find that, so the first bit, this is a list item. So we know that in our soup you're going to find list items, and since they follow each other, they're list items, or we can see them down here, isn't it? Yeah? Then, so if we have our list item there, we can see that it's in a division called user repositories list. So we are going to tell our scrapper that we are going into a certain division and we want the data that's there. Yeah, so here it is. It includes all of our repositories list. And so now that we know the location of our repositories, here it is. So this is the whole container that contains the data that we want to scrap. It's under div id user.repositories list. So on our scrapper, we can specify, find this div with this ID, which is shown there. So in this bit, we are going to tell it, so in the soup that you have got, that you have passed, find a division with this ID. And then it's going to fetch us the content that is in that ID, and that is what you're going to go through. So if we go back to our HTML, we can see that we have an unordered list, which is full of items, which are my repos. Yeah? So we can see we have list items, list items, list items. So we are going to fetch our information from all those list items. So we can now dive into the list item and see what you're going to get from there. So here we have the repository name, yeah? So we can see it's under a link. This bit here, it's a link because it's clickable. So what did we want? We wanted the name and the link, which is here. So we have a href where the name, the target is the link of the repo, and the name is the name of the repo. So we'll go back to our scrapper and find all list items. And if you note, we're finding all list of repos in the main content that you have extracted from the soup, not from the whole page, because there might be other list items that we don't know that are there. So now we are getting deeper and deeper into the page. We have found the content that we want, where we have the list of the repos. Then we get into the list of repos and find all content that is in the list item tag. So, so in the list of repos now we have list items. We have plenty of list items, and it's just HTML code. It's the HTML code that's in the list item. So Beautiful Soup has this beautiful thing where you can just extract the string from an element using, so we are going to loop through all of them, and we're going to have for repo in list of repos in our list. So we have a repo, now we have a list item. So the list item, we saw it had an A tag which had the link to our repo, yeah? So we can just do the repository name is repo.a.string, and we get the name that's in between the A tags. So if I can show you, the bit that we'll get will be so now since we have our A tag here, we're going to get this bit where it is displayed in. We're going to get this name. Then now we are going to fetch the link which is in the href property. We want the link to the repo too. So we can have so we get the name, yeah? Then we get the link. It's the same exact thing. So here we get the string which is inside the element, but we can get the properties of the element. So we do repo.a.get the href element. This will return the link to the repo that we have selected at that point in time. So the next thing will be to get the description. So we know some repos have descriptions and some don't, because GitHub allows you to. So if we have a repo and it has a p tag where our description is stored, if we can see that live. So yes, so we can see where the description is stored. The description is stored in a p tag. It's stored in a p tag in our list item. So that's what we want. So we're going to check, since not all of them have descriptions, so we check if we have our p tag in our repo, which means there's a description, and if it is a string, if it has a string, you're going to print the description so that we can get the description of our repo. If there is no description, we can just print no description available for this. As we can see, we have the repository name, materialize, then we have the link, github.com Robley, the next thing, then we have the description. So let me see if I can find a repo that has no description in those, but I describe all my repos, so that's it. That's the output of our scrapper. So what we have is a simple output, is a simple scrapper that has gone to my GitHub page and found out all the repos that I have, extracted the names, the links, and the titles. So what can we do with this data? So that takes me on to the next step. So now we have our scrapped stuff, voila. So what's our next move? We have scrapped our data, we have structured our page, we have the data in our Python, in our machine. So you can push this data to a database, you can store it there and access it from elsewhere, or you can automate it. You can use the bots. We have Telegram as a very beautiful bots API. We have the Facebook Messenger bots API. So this is the point where you can channel your data to multiple channels. So you can send them via email, you can structure anything however you want. So what questions do you have? Any questions? Yeah?
How about content that is like dynamically loaded onto the page after initial load?
After initial load. Yeah. So yeah, what you are passing is the content that has been dynamically loaded. So we are getting the web page after it has completed loading. So if there was any JS generated stuff, it has to be put in some elements. Yeah. So that's the content that we're getting. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're getting already loaded element. Okay, cool. Yeah?
Does it mean then that the scrapper will open the page and wait for it to load?
Nah. So that is what Selenium does. But for our scrapper, it's going to... So when you call your website, you get HTML, yeah? You get the HTML, the styling, then the browser displays the code. It changes from HTML to something that you can see beautifully. So our scrapper will get the pure HTML and go through it, find all the spans, all the divisions, all the sections, all the aside, and get the content that you want. Yeah? Any other questions? Questions, guys, questions? None? So we have no questions. So we've learned about scrapping. We've seen why we scrap. We've seen who scraps. We've seen real life usages of scrapping. We've done a demo scrapper for GitHub, and that's all. So yeah.
What's the relation of scrapping and resisting robot.txt in websites?
Robot.txt in websites. So I'm not sure about that, because the scrapping bit doesn't require the robots.txt. I just need the HTML. I just need to get the HTML that has been rendered and sift through it. Yeah. Any other questions? Yep. Any other questions? We're running short on time. So going once, Going twice. So if there are no more questions, so if you go to the GitHub repo, I have put a link of everything there. The display, the presentation, the scrapper, and we have the demo scrapper is there. So also I put my Twitter handles on the display, so if you need to reach out to me, my email, yeah, reach out to me on Twitter. I reply Twitter faster than email. Yeah, so so that's it from me. Thank you for taking your time to come to my talk. I really appreciate it, and I hope that I've entertained you guys. So here's the repo. It has the links to the slides. It has other links. Yeah, I should have other resources. I think they're on another branch. Yeah, so that's it from me. Thank you for your time.